Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Late Night Review. And tonight I want to review a really heartwarming and fun movie, something that the whole family can enjoy. And just kidding. Just kidding. It's the horror, to me, it's a horror classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And I know I'm going to rock a lot of boats here, and I know that it's probably heretical in the horror community. But I think this movie is highly underrated. I like this movie a lot, and what I'm about to say is probably going to be a little bit surprising to people, but this is actually my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. And just hear me out. I'll tell you why. The family in here is very welcoming. I think it's the best version of the family in the whole franchise, except for if Arlie Ermy and Jim Saito were in here, then it would just be, just a golden ranking. I mean, it would be maybe one of my favorite movies, period, of all time if they were in it, but they're not. I wish they were, but I wish they would have been, but they're not. But still, this family is really heartwarming in here, really welcoming, and very a likable family, a family that you would like to visit. And of course, I'm just kidding. But this movie here, I got a lot of nostalgia for. When it first came out, when I was a kid, I was a big Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan as a kid. Not so much anymore. I'm not really into the disturbing horror movies like I used to be. When I was a kid, me and a few other people, a few of my friends, we wanted to see the latest, most shocking thing. We were into movies that were pretty disturbing. I used to watch Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer when I was a kid. I don't really watch those movies much anymore because they're just too. There comes a point where they're so disturbing and sickening. The entertainment value is totally gone for me. And most of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, I really don't rewatch them much anymore. Now, when I was a kid, I would be into it, but I'm not really into that anymore. I don't like the point where I'm turned off by a movie. Like, why am I watching this? It's so violent and it's just innocent people being brutalized. I don't like that. But this is a movie that I wanted to do a review of because it's my favorite chainsaw movie. And the reason for that is um, when it first came out, I was so pumped that there was a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie coming out. I liked the first two so much. They were two of my favorite movies. And when this came out and I saw the trailers, and I think the trailers for this movie is probably the best in the whole franchise. There was a couple from part two that I really liked too, where he's breaking through the wall at the end and you have the blue background and he's sawing through the wall. That was awesome. This movie here, I think it has the best trailers of any chainsaw film. And it's the only Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie in the whole franchise where I really want to sit down and eat a home cooked meal too. No, I'm just kidding. But it's the only one. It has something that none of them else have, in my opinion. It's the only Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that doesn't irritate me or rub me the wrong way at all. It has a couple things that I can nitpick and maybe a little irritated, get a little irritated from, but this is the only one in the franchise that doesn't give me an overdose of anything. It's on the level. It's the right mode for me. It's on a comfortable mode for me where I could just sit back, watch it. And yes, it's disturbing certain scenes, but I can enjoy it. I enjoy part one and two, and then I think the remake was really good. I think a couple of the other ones in the franchise were okay. I thought the ones where Arlie Ermy, when he was in there, were good. I think he was a great addition to the family. I thought some of his one-liners were just absolutely hilarious and really funny. He's one of my favorites of all time. One of the movies that no one really talks about with him, but I like a lot, was The Siege of Firebase Gloria. Maybe in the future I might do a video on that one day, who knows? But yeah, he's one of my favorites, so he was a great addition to the franchise. This one here was the first time I ever started noticing Viggo Mortensen. and I seen him before, but never really paid attention much to him. Like in Witness, he had a small role in Witness with Harrison Ford, a great, as a classic movie, one of the best Harrison Ford movies I think ever. And Kelly McGillis was in there, and the guy that was in Die Hard with Bruce Willis was in there. The first Die Hard he had that big fight with. Um, that's a great movie, one of my favorite movies of all time too. Viggo Mortensen had a small part in there, and then they were helping raising the barn in that movie. But I never really saw him enough to really start following him. But this is the movie, Chainsaw 3 is where I really started following him. And then after this, he was in some movies that I seen. One with David Warner, I believe, another really good actor. I think it was called Tripwire. It was an action-oriented movie. And then I started watching him. He was an Indian Runner. That was one of my favorite movies. So I followed him through his career all the way up until he made Lord of the Rings. And so it was really good to see him make that big movie, Lord of the Rings, and then part 2 and 3 and so on and so forth. The rest is history. But I think he does a really good job in here, actually. I think he's very convincing as one of the family members. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies have always had at least a little bit of humor in them, and this one is no different. It has some pretty, dark humor, and I like dark humor. And this is, like I said, this is my favorite Chainsaw movie because it doesn't give me an overdose of anything. I can actually be entertained and enjoy it. It's not too disturbing where I'm turned off. And I don't think it's boring. If you look at this movie, there's always something happening. I think the pace is really good. I like the atmosphere. I like the place it's shot. I like the cinematography. I like the music and the buildup. I like the look of Leatherface in here. I think it's one of the better looks for Leatherface in here. And I think that with the scenes at the gas station, and then where they thought Tex, Viggo Mortensen actually got killed, at that, and they set the tension really well, and it looked realistic how he was trying to get away and he was shot. Of course, he didn't really die. Most people have seen this, so this is a spoiler. There's spoilers in here, even though, because most people have seen this. But it's a movie that I was taken to see as a kid, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And one of the big reasons it's my favorite is because, like I said, I was waiting so much for them to make another Chainsaw movie. They only made the first two, 1 and 2, which I liked quite a bit, especially in those days. And then when this came out and I saw the trailers, I was so pumped. I couldn't wait to go see him. So there's a lot of nostalgia to this. I admit that. I think a lot of the reason I like this movie is because I saw the trailers. I was young. I couldn't wait for a new Chainsaw movie to come out. And then when I saw it, it was just, I had a blast. And the theater experience was pretty good. And it was, even though most of the time I do enjoy, I like it at home. I like watching movies at home, but it was a pretty good theater experience. And the posters were really cool. And I was so excited for just a new Chainsaw movie finally to be made. I mean, it wasn't that long after part 2, but for me, as a young, very, very young person, it seemed like forever. So when it first came out and I saw those trailers, which were probably the best in the franchise, couldn't wait to see it. And then when I saw it, I wasn't disappointed. I liked pretty much everything about this. There's a couple scenes in there that I have a problem with. There's a couple things that I thought didn't flow together rightly, but actually I thought part 3 was the best put together up to that point. Part 1 and 2 were good, but I thought part 3 was the best put together, production wise, and in terms of acting and editing. I thought it was better than part 1 and 2. For a while, part 1 was still remained my favorite even after I saw this one, but I think in my heart of hearts, after I saw this, I actually did like this better than part 1, but I didn't really say it because I didn't think it. I didn't really think that I liked it better than the first one, but I felt it. And then over the years, I liked it more and more and more until it's my favorite nowadays. Sometimes you like a movie better than your favorite movie, think about this. Sometimes you actually like a movie better than your favorite movie, but you don't exactly realize it yet. That's the case with me in this movie. I always liked part one the best, and after I saw this, I think deep down I like this better. But in my mind, I still thought that I liked part one the best, the classic, the first one, the original, you know. But I have found out in my own experience that when you keep going back to a certain movie and you rewatch it over and over again, more than the one that you say you like the best or you think you like the best, that might be your hidden favorite movie, and you didn't really want to admit it. So I think that's kind of the case in this case here. I think that's what happened, and I like the action scenes. I like the trees in here and the way the shadows are. I like the story. You know, it's just, the subject matter is awful, and these people are evil. You know, it's terrible. They should be destroyed. But it's, you know, it's a movie. It's make believe. It's fake. It's not, you know, it's not real. I mean, there's people out there. You know, I'm sure there's people out there like this, but I mean, this is a Hollywood. It's a movie, and what you're seeing is not real. Although the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the franchise has been pretty realistic in how they show things. But some of them later on have gotten too disturbing for my taste. I used to like that when I was really, really, you know, pretty young. But nowadays, I like movies that entertain me more than movies that are just realistic or disturbing. Or even if a movie is really great and well acted, I mean, Academy Award winning stuff, I'll choose an entertaining movie over that. Because to me, if it entertains me, it just skyrockets in my ranking and in my book. So yeah, this movie is my favorite of the Chainsaw Massacre movies. I don't think that I'll do any more reviews of the Chainsaw series. Maybe, maybe not, because nowadays it's not really one of my favorite series, but it used to be when I was a kid. This is my favorite of the whole franchise, and that's kind of rare to hear that nowadays. This one gets a lot of criticism, but it's just the right mode for me. Not too disturbing, not boring. It came out at the right time for me, and it really hit the spot for me. And like I said, I have a lot of nostalgia for this. Viggo Mortensen, I first started following him after watching this. I thought the music in here was good, and it fit the movie, and it fit the atmosphere, the cinematography, the art directing, the house. I thought the house and then the little swing outside is kind of an homage to the first one. You know, the chair with hooked up to the chain, kind of a swing in the front where you can sit and rock. And the I thought that the actors did a good job. The acting in here was better than in the first two in the editing, so that put it higher up for me. And the family in here, like I said before, it's I think that they did a good job. I think it's the family that I like the best in here, except for if Jim Saito and Arlie Ermy were in here, then it would skyrocket in my ratings. But yeah, I think that the saw in here, the Saw's family, the huge chainsaw that was made uh, for this movie by Tech. I think it was the character named Tech who made it for Leatherface, and he gave it to him as a gift. And then it leads up to that scene where he throws his Walkman in the Leatherface's Walkman in the stove, and then Leatherface gets angry, and he has his Tech has a hook hand, and then he has a real hand. Well, Leatherface forced him to reach into the burning stove or the oven that was on into the flames with his real hand to retrieve his Walkman, his tape. And that was there's humor in here. It's funny. It's as horrible as these movies are in the sense of they're killers and cannibals, and that's disgusting. But I had some pretty fond memories of this movie, and I think it was really funny in certain parts. And like I said, Viggo Mortensen fit into the family really well. And yeah, it's one of my favorites. That's my opinion on it. And like and share this video, subscribe, and take care, everybody, and have a good night and watch out for Leatherface.